Hey guys, this is Dan from Let's Tank, and today we're going to be looking at the Guardian Druid on the BFA beta. So Guardian Druids currently have not been changed pretty much at all. Even the talents are pretty much exactly the same as they are on live right now. So if you like how they're playing on live, you'll definitely enjoy them in BFA. Something to note about the Guardian Druid is that if you just come into tanking or you're looking at what tank you want to play in BFA and you want something really simple and easy, definitely check out the Guardian Druid, as they've got a really simple rotation as well as a really simple rage builder. Pretty much going to be building rage using abilities and then pretty much spending it on Iron Fur 99% of the time and that 1% using Maul. But you pretty much can get away with just spending it on Iron Fur if you really want to, but that's totally up to you guys. However, if you are a veteran tank, this can be seen as a big negative, as you're not getting too much changes in the Guardian Druid. They're getting dumbed down a bit with the loss of Rage of the Sleeper from the artifact, so that can be a problem. You might not actually enjoy the Guardian Druid too much because it is simple and a little bit slower, but again, all the tanks are slow in BFA compared to what they have been, mainly because of the haste nerf, as well as the loss of some abilities from the artifact and some of them talents that made the tanking a little bit quicker. And while I'm talking about it, the loss of Rage of the Sleeper is actually a huge nerf to the Guardian Druid, as it was a baseline ability which you got just to increase your initial threat on stuff. And with the removal of this, unless you talent into something like Incarnation, you're not going to have anything to give you that extra burst of damage on demand if you ever need it. But from tanking some dungeons, I have noticed that the Guardian Druid threat in general is pretty decent, and you're not going to be losing aggro on off targets as much as you would on other tanks, which is pretty cool to be honest, since you don't have that burst of damage from an offensive ability. It's really nice to see that your thrash and a few swipes will hold the aggro on off targets, which I was kind of worried about when I saw that Rage was going, and we'd be relying on abilities like Incarnation and Galactic to help with our off-target aggro. So it is really nice to know that our general threat generation is pretty high, and I think that's mainly because of them removing Rage, as well as due to the simplicity of the actual tank, because let's face it, if you lose aggro on an off-target, all you've really got is a taunt, and then you're either going to be hitting the target with a Mangle or a Moonfire. And if your Moonfire's not been procced from a Galactic, or you're not spec'ing to Galactic, and your Mangle may be on cooldown for some reason, then you're pretty much going to have mobs running everywhere. So it is really nice to see that Thrash and Swipe do generate pretty high amount of threat, so they should help out some. Okay, so now let's look at the GCD changes to our defensive abilities. So what's really cool about the Druid is that really, unless you're going to be talenting Bristling Fur and Incarnation, that the only other thing that's now been put on the GCD is Frenzied Regeneration, which is kind of a bummer, but not as bad as other tanks have been hit with the GCD changes. So Survival Instincts and Bark Skin are actually off the GCD still, which is really good and really strong. But like I just mentioned, Bristling Fur and Incarnation are on the GCD. So if you do decide to talent these, then just be aware of that. So now let's have a look at the talents of the Guardian Druid. And overall, not much has changed, but there has been a few nerfs and a few swap arounds to the talents, but nothing too crazy. So in tier 1, nothing's really changed. We've still got Brambles, Blood Frenzy, and Bristling Fur. However, as I just said, Bristling Fur is now on the GCD, so I guess that's a slight nerf to it, but nothing too major. On tier 2, we have Intimidating Roar, Wild Charge, which are both unchanged, and then a new talent called Tiger Dash. Now, this changes your dash from a 2-minute cooldown to a 45-second cooldown, and Tiger Dash now increases movement speed by 200%, reducing gradually over 5 seconds. So that's a pretty strong talent in itself. However, we do lose Guttural Roars, which is a really big talent, as it reduces the cooldown of your Stampeding Roar, which is also a huge utility, especially in a lot of the raid scenarios that we have where we need the Roar up for certain mechanics. So overall, it's probably a bigger nerf than it is a gain for us in a raid setting. However, in 5-man dungeons and stuff, it's probably a buff, as it'll help a lot with kiting mobs and stuff like that. So in tier 3, we still have the Resto, Feral and Balance affinities. However, the Restos had a slight buff. Instead of 0.8% healed, it's now 1.5% healed. And the Balance affinity has had its range reduced from 5 yards to 3 yards. The Feral affinity still remains the same at a 15% movement speed increase. So in tier 4, we still have Mighty Bash, Mass Entanglement and Typhoon, and all these remain exactly the same. And then in tier 5, we still have Soul of the Forest and Incarnation, which remain exactly the same. And then we have Galactic Guardian, which has had a slight nerf of, instead of being a 7% chance to proc, it's now 5%. So nothing too major, and you've also got to remember that Incarnation is now on the GCD as well. In tier 6, we still have Earth Warden, Survival of the Fittest, and Guardian of a Loon. None of these have been changed at all and work exactly the same as they do currently on live. So in tier 7, we have Rend and Tear, Lunar Beam, and Pulverize. And the only nerf on this tier is to Lunar Beam, and it's had its cooldown increased slightly from 1.25 minutes to 1.3 minutes. So nothing too major on this tier, and it's going to work exactly the same as it does on live as well. Now, as I said earlier, there's not been a lot of changes to the talents, so it makes the gameplay very similar, which can be a positive or a negative depending on how you look at it. For me personally, it's a negative. I really wanted the gameplay to change of the Guardian Druid. I was getting really bored near the end, which is why I won't be playing a Guardian Druid in BFA. However, for people who do enjoy it how it is on live right now, you're pretty much going to have the same fun as you do currently. Now for talent choices, personally, I'd probably still stick with Bristling Fur for the most part, or Brambles in the tier 1. In tier 2, because of the loss of the raw talent, you either want to go Tiger Dash or Wild Charge. I really like the Tiger Dash ability, or the dash ability on live. Currently I use it a fair lot. It's a shame it's on a 2-minute cooldown, but the Tiger Dash obviously it reduces its cooldown, which means it's a very strong talent to take, especially in dungeons and for kiting and stuff like that. You just got to be really good at shape-shifting and micromanaging your shape-shift. For the tier 3, it's good that they've buffed the restoration affinity a little bit. However, I still think that balance and the feral affinity are a lot stronger. In the tier 4, obviously it's situational, but for a lot of the time, you're going to be going with Typhoon for the pushbacks and the kiting. Mass Entangle's okay in certain raid instances, like Uncoven, where you had to CC the wall of ads. Great for stuff like that. And Mighty Bash could be useful in the odd circumstance where you need to stun a single ad that's doing a lot of damage or needs to be, I don't know, kited around or something like along those lines. In the tier 5, obviously Incarnation's on the GCD now, however it's mega strong, especially since you can taunt a lot more. It's going to make it crazy powerful, and it's also a nice boost to your threat, gives you the thrash, gives you a cooldown to use. Galactic Guardian, obviously the slight nerf kind of sucks, but still pretty good, and it doesn't affect your GCDs and stuff, so very strong. I don't really see why they had to nerf the talent, but up to Blizzard as always. In the tier 6, Guardian of a Loon still mega strong. Survival of the Fittest is going to be extremely strong considering we don't have any magic damage reduction built into our kit, so Survival of the Fittest is going to really help get the cooldown of our Survival Instincts and Bark Skin up, which can help out in a lot of the magic fights. However, if it's an armor fight, you're pretty much going to be going with Guardian of a Loon. And the last tier, for the most part, I normally go Rend and Tear, but Pulverize seems extremely strong, especially with the gameplay being so much slower than it is on live right now. If anyone followed any of the top raiding tanks, for example, Sko, he took Pulverize. However, the DR difference between Pulverize and Rend and Tear is only 3%, so just keep that in mind. It's a lot easier just to have Rend and Tear up on the target than having to micromanage your Pulverize. Lunar Beam, for me personally, I never really used it, never took it, didn't enjoy the talent, but some people might, and it might have its uses in certain places. And that's pretty much it for the talents. As I've already said multiple times, I do wish they did go a bit different with the talents and they went out of the comfort zone a little bit and changed the druid slightly or even quite differently or drastically. But they haven't, and this looks like what we'll be getting in BFA. So what are my final thoughts on the Guardian Druid? Actually, they're pretty strong, and I do like that the threat's nothing really to worry about. They're great for new tanks. If you just swap into tank, I do highly recommend picking up the Guardian Druid just to break yourself in and get used to how the threat now works. The talents are really simple. You either pick A or B. There's nothing really too much to go into in detail, and it's just one of those pick up and play tanks. Great for new people. However, for a veteran tank, I wouldn't really recommend it, especially if you've already been playing Druid in Legion. You're probably going to find them boring and nothing really to challenge yourself with. And also, they're probably not going to be the strongest tank, and they're probably going to be mid-pack to lower tier, in my opinion, for gameplay and just in general of how the kit currently works. Especially with a nerf to Stampeding Raw, that talent getting removed means that Stampeding Raw is just a 2-minute cooldown now, so that's pretty big in a raid setting, let alone in a 5-man setting to get through dungeons a little bit quicker. Personally, I really think they need to bring Rage as a flatline talent now for the Guardian Druid, as I think it's just a needed part of the kit to give them some kind of burst of damage. You can probably just get rid of the knockback effect on the Rage of the Sleeper, as it is pretty overpowered for certain mechanics and stuff, but just having it there as just a little burst of damage is a much needed thing, I think, for the Druid, and it's definitely going to be felt and missed not having that ability. So, final thing, will I be playing Guardian Druid in BFA? The answer to that is no, I will not be playing Guardian Druid in BFA. Unless they turn out to be super overpowered and needed in a raid, I definitely won't be picking up this class. However, as I've said twice in the video already, if you are a new tank, highly consider picking up one of these, as they're really simple and it'll break you into tanking for the other classes. Anyway guys, that's it for this video. Thanks for watching my video and thanks for the support recently. Please like, comment and subscribe for more guides and previews.